Yeah, I love it. I say no.
I love that. I do this because I can.
My son, who's over 6 feet tall, did that recently. Well, within the last 6 months, he did that. It was quite ridiculous.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Oh, Kathleen is sick. Oh.
Yeah. I saw that.
Not good. Not good. Okay. Bummer. I'm just gonna give her a quick bummer comment. Bummer. And yeah, I don't want her showing up and exposing her flu to us.
Right.
You're too funny. Everybody's getting it. It's terrible too.
Hey, Paul, while we're waiting, today I was listening to the podcast that you had with Tiffany just recently. Tiffany Thomas.
Tiffany Thomas, yes.
It was good. The small business and how she uses Instagram to create connections with people, and then tries to.
Yeah,
it was good. I made some notes, which I'm going to transcribe now into my little book while I'm waiting.
Nice. You know what's really funny, and this is sad. This just stays amongst us for. Oh, good night. I should stop the broadcast, but oh well, that's okay. This is just amongst us.
Too late.
Just amongst us is that the sad fact of the matter is now that I'm coming up on 400 people being interviewed, I got to tell you, I am forgetting who people are. I just like you said, Tiffany. I barely remember her.
Okay,
wow. Isn't that sad?
I just want to know, without our names on here, do you remember us?
Oh yeah, you guys.
You said you do.
Although there's one person in here have a hard time remembering her name. She just kissed her kid, and I can't. Just joking. I'm just joking, Samantha. I mean,
what's your name?
Just joking.
I am coming this week. I might hunt you down and tackle you.
Yes. You are going?
Hey,
going.
So you better mind your P's and Q's now, because she's going to be after you.
I'm coming after you.
Right on. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. How you doing?
Doing great. I see that you missed you liked that picture that I posted Sunday, and you said you missed that place or something like that.
I do. Yeah, the Oregon coast.
Isn't that a beautiful? I mean, that was taken with my iPhone, and I don't know if you took the time to zoom in on that, but the clarity on that picture is amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know where.
I've got the 8. So, and I just bought it because here's my 8. I just bought it because my 6 died, and so I upgraded to an 8. And I debated about going to a 10. And the guy said there's just not enough
no difference. Yeah.
There's not enough difference that I just said I'm not going to spend the extra $500.
Exactly.
I don't need to spend that. Okay, I wanted to give you guys the heads up on this. And some of you may be interested in this project that I have coming up. I've got a project called Kiln to Kitchen. I'm just building the website for it right now, literally right now. So the idea is that it's going to be a show, and what I'm doing is it was an idea that did I tell you guys about this already?
You polled us on names. I remember that.
Okay. Well, so the idea with Kiln to Kitchen is that it's connecting potters with restaurants or connecting potters with chefs. And the idea is to hopefully be able to create sales. So we've got a 2-prong process, or two sides of it. Everybody likes prestige. So there's going to be a juried part of the show, but then there's going to be a part of it where it's about making sales to restaurants. Which means that, say Carly were to put something into it, she this is not any kind of critique at this point. I'm just saying this for the sake of saying it. But she may not win the show in the jury part of it, but more importantly, she would win, say, a restaurant that would say, "Oh, we like Carly's stuff. We want to be able to buy." So she would sell an entire restaurant's worth of serving plates. So it's trying to create two things. One a prestige thing for each individual, for the best of show, best of whatever, and then secondly, to be able to create an ongoing way to be able to make money through the show by being in there with the Kiln the Kitchen. So that's in the process of being built out right now. And I just purchased in Ceramics Monthly yesterday an ad for the classified. And then it turns out that once you purchase, that's supposed to go out in March. And then, but sadly, once you purchase it, they automatically put it on their website. So I don't have the website built. So it means that I've had to jump into high gear and build the website. I don't like really building websites, but I don't mind the process, but I don't necessarily like the process. So I've got to build.
You get Chiro to do it for you. He likes doing it.
Chiro, yes, Chiro, and actually Kathleen too. I think Kathleen said she's built a bunch of websites too. So I've got the basics. I mean, I'm just going to do a basic theme at this point and then build it out. In fact, is there anyone here that would be willing to let me use one of your a photo of some of your work or one of your pieces for the page? Anybody that would be up for that, or
who wouldn't?
Exactly.
Who wouldn't? Well, I don't know. Some people might not be into it. Carly's saying no. Carly says no.
That's stressful for me. I don't understand the whole thing. So if you get in the show, you have, like, do you get to select what items you're willing to make for these restaurants? Or are you just like, oh my gosh, that sounds stressful. Like, are you going to have to make like 1,000 plates or something?
Oh no, Carly, that's a great question.
Like, that's why I'm like, don't include me. Cause I'm trying to not commit to anything I can't actually do, because I want to be somebody who follows through.
Look, I want this to be really a win-win for everybody. So you can think of it in terms of design. So instead of thinking about being the producer, you could be the designer.
Okay.
So that, say that someone were to purchase, were to say, we like Carly's work, then you do have the option of saying, yeah, I'll make it all, but I'll tell you what, that's going to be super expensive. You're going to charge a crazy expense or price for the restaurant, which is going to put you out of their reach. So a better way to do it would be for you to partner up with someone like Mud Sharks, who they will say, we'll produce it all, we'll sell it all you have, and you go back to your studio and keep doing what you're doing. So they take your design, they make the molds, and then they sell it on your behalf, and then you end up making money off of that stream of income. And you don't have to do anything for it.
Oh,
Are you also providing that relationship, or do we have to foster the relationship with Mud Shark?
Okay, great question. Great question, Carly. Thanks for asking. I would say yes. I will foster that relationship because I'm doing it with Mud Sharks.
Oh, okay.
So the guy that's doing it with Mud Sharks, it's Brett Binford, and he's one of the owners at Mud Shark. And I asked him to partner with me on this project so that it wouldn't be just another thing that I'm doing by myself. Because I tell you what, alone is hard. It's really hard. So I'm partnering with him to build the website, or not to build the website, to build the show. And so, because he does, and then what he does, because he's doing something kind of like this right now, what he does is that he goes, let's say, like Sarah Wolf is a local potter here. She's also been on the Potter's Cast at one point. But what Sarah did is that she came up with a line of restaurant stuff, plates, service, right? And so what they did was they created a separate LLC that is not Sarah Wolf and it's not Mud Sharks, but it's a separate business that is for Sarah Wolf. But Mud Shark produces it all. So she's the designer, and then Mud Shark's the producer, and the restaurant is the purchaser. So they already have a purchaser that does that. So the idea that I have is to be able to do that kind of a thing for her. Now, that's not to say that, say, Carly, you were to get the sale, you would have to use Mud Sharks. There might be another company that you'd want to use, like, say, Heath Ceramics out of California, or there's someone in the South that's closer to you that would be a company you would work with. But Mud Sharks would definitely be an option. And Brett has already said he doesn't have to be the driving force for it. He would just be there. If you want to, great. If you want to use someone else, that's great. Our goal is more about connecting potters with restaurants so that the chefs, instead of going to, and there's like 3 different places that all restaurants go to buy their it's not flatware. They're serving trays, their plates, their cups, their bowls. There's not that many resources for them. They all go to the same place and they purchase it all from China for the most part. And so what ends up doing, what we want to do is be able to maybe be within shot, like maybe 15% of what it would cost to be able to buy it from China, so that people can buy local. It's kind of trying to get the idea about from farm to table. We're trying to get from kiln to kitchen, get the kiln that, from us into that market. So I'm trying to open up a market. I'm trying to open a market for the ceramic community. And initially it's going to be for the United States and Canada, but I would love for it to be able to be for the world, because I want the world of ceramics to be more accessible for people that are going to be buying our work, for restaurants specifically. So that's the idea. Does that make more sense, Carly? I know you're muted right now. You can just nod your head if you want to, but does that make more sense, and is that less scary?
It does, because that's I've had a few people ask me about doing stuff, and I've just said no, because I can't make 150 salad plates. I can, but I don't want to.
Right,
so
right.
Think, so I like that, because I didn't even know who to go to besides China, which I don't have China's phone number.
That's such a good line. I don't have China's phone number. Oh my gosh, that kills me. Yeah. Thumbbuck. I'd like to call China, please.
Dial 0.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah. Well, that's the idea. So it's becoming more and more official. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, let's get started. By the way, hi Leanne, hi Becca. How'd you guys do? Who was reposted today? Becca was. I think Leanne was, and who else was reposted? I'm sorry that my little brain doesn't. I'm gonna look real quickly.
Christina.
Christina, that's right, Christina V. 2 squares, yes. So I forgot my normal reposting app is on the Fritz, and so it's a different approach for doing things. Let's see. So I didn't keep track of, like, Becca, I didn't keep track of how many followers you started out with before. Usually I write down how many followers they got in that day, and I totally forgot to write your name, your stuff down. If someone has over 10,000 followers, I don't even bother looking up and seeing how many they got. So Ellen, or not Ellen, but Leanne, I should say. Leanne, I didn't write down what you had.
Instagram was a little nuts this past couple of days. Anyways, I wasn't, like, I forgot it was Tuesday. I didn't see your post, and I was like, oh, that was so nice. And so I don't know. It was hard to keep track of how many came in from that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are beautiful cups I reposted, by the way. I love those. Those are sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why are you grabbing your hair? I swore last year would be the last time I did my own tax. Oh, that's it.
Yes. I have a lady that just started today, a bookkeeper, and she's like going through my stuff with me, and she's like, I'm so sorry about you having to do it your own this year. I'm so sorry. I'm like, just leave, just go.
Yeah, taxes. Oh my gosh, I've got to get on my taxes here soon too. It is not fun. So anyhow, Becca, how did you do today?
I did okay. I don't think it's probably not as good as past ones. And actually, I think I shared that same image like a really long time ago. And this time around, it didn't, you know, for whatever reason, receive as much.
I reposted this image before?
Yeah, a long time ago, like, I don't know, a couple years ago when I posted that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that cup.
But I wouldn't expect you to remember that. Yeah, you must really like it because you've posted it twice.
I do like it. It's a beautiful cup. In fact, I not only liked it, but I bookmarked it because I thought I like the pattern. And so you might see a cup with an echo of that in what I do. So I won't imitate it. Yeah,
you make it your own.
Yeah, it'll be something.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, but it's a very cool cup. And then Christina, she's not here tonight, so we won't be able to ask her how she did. Actually, I could look her. It doesn't matter. I'm just curious how it went. So, are you guys? Is it being helpful for y'all? I want to make sure it's still being helpful. If it's not helpful, we don't have to do it. I just want to make sure it's being helpful. Are you guys being helped by it? Is it good? Are we happy with it? Is there something I should do differently? Any critiques, comments, criticisms about it from anyone?
I'm just wondering, like, in terms of the selection, I mean, it's more organic if you're the one choosing it. But if somebody has a direction that they're going in now, can they give you some hints about what they would like you to look at?
Well, that'd be more work for me.
Okay.
So I'm really lazy, and it's really not that I'm lazy. It's that I'm really pressed for time for a lot of things, and which will be, I'll talk about, you know, our terrific time management tips here in a few minutes, but it all has to do with, you know, how much time I have to invest in. If I'm going to, I guess there's things you could do to make it easy for me. Like if you, I guess I could start telling you who's going to come up next week. And then if you wanted to, you could tag me in a specific post that you'd want me to do. I guess we could do something like that, but I don't know. It's another layer of complexity that I'd rather not get into because it is kind of tough. But I am kind of bummed that I reposted Becca's twice.
It's okay.
I would rather, yeah. So I should have posted something that was fresh for her page. That would have been kind of a nice thing to do instead of just redoing something that was old. But I really like that cup, so I came back across it, I was like, oh, that is sweet. So
what about if you were to let people know a week in advance and they maybe posted their top 3 favorite pieces of the last, let's say, month or 2, and then they posted those on Facebook? Then you could see them, and then it's hard to track it then.
No, I don't want to do top 3 and then me pick one of those 3. That would be too much work. But I don't mind doing something like I would have to remember. I'm thinking here, Jackie, because it's a very good comment. Because I get it. Because I reposted something for Valerie when we first started, and she did horribly that day because it's not that it was a bad picture. It's just that it wasn't as interesting as the other pictures that she posts.
Mhm.
So I remember.
I wonder if you
go ahead,
looked
Valerie.
at when the pictures that you choose, if you look at the number of likes on them compared to what other ones around it are, it might give you the idea of the most popular ones, because that one didn't get very many likes when I posted it either.
But I liked it. It was a great process shot.
I thought it was great, but it didn't get a whole big response.
Yeah, see, because I like to do, because you're right about that, and I don't mind. I mean, this is really good to hash this through. Like process shots, I think are kind of fun to post, but you're right. Process shots don't typically get a lot of views unless it's like the process shot of a dog throwing the pottery with someone reaching around it.
Oh,
that gets a lot of action.
It's the cat paw prints that like went out the ceiling of this week on mine because my cat walked across wetware, and that gets more. Oh, it gets more action than anything I ever do. Whenever that's happened, it's like double anything else because I don't know, people like cats. But I do think that there would be something. It wouldn't be hard if you're looking at our page to choose something, just to kind of randomly go around, because sometimes process shots, some of them are good unless they're videos, and then they're always better than not. But some of my process shots have done really, really well. But there are some, it doesn't take long when I'm looking at their feed to see what their average number of likes are. I wouldn't even need to find something that's the highest number, but just getting it at least in the average number of likes might help you just make a selection between 2 or 3 that are catching your eye.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Does that sound good for you, Jackie, from what Valerie was saying?
Mm-hmm.
Could you let us know, like, how you tell us on Tuesday it's going to be these 3 people? Could you say on that Tuesday it's these 3 people, and the next week it'll be these 3 people?
Yeah, I could because I mean, I'll tell you what I have is I just have a spreadsheet in my Google Drive, and I start right at the top, and I work my way through the list. And when someone new joins, they get to the top of the list. And then, but besides that, it's going to be pretty much the same. It's going to just kind of flow right from top to bottom, and then go right back to the top and go like that. So that is what my process is. I had to come up with a system that I don't have to think a lot. Try to be on autopilot.
I'm posting every day, and I should be better. But I try to, when I get reposted by someone, to post again that day, then the next, do 3 or 4 days of posts for the new followers to hey, I'm here, to remember me.
Yeah.
But
so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say yes, Carly. I'll do that. I'm saying that to all of you. I'll do that. I'll post who I'm going to be posting next week, with the caveat that if someone new joins the group, they're going to bump somebody, usually the person on the bottom of the list. So that'll be the caveat. So. But the other thing is because I'm a person who 0.5 today out. I'm a creature of habit, and so one of the things that would really be helpful for me, if next Tuesday, if I forget to post that, just put in the comments, hey Paul, who's next week? Because I know who's next week is going to be. In fact, if you want to, I can tell you who it's going to be right now. Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
Okay, I'll just tell you real quickly. Best to look at my phone. That's the fastest way. La, la, la.
I mean, even knowing the same day helped me, because I had been contemplating doing a giveaway. I had never done one of those. And I timed it to coincide with your posting instead of posting it when I was going to. And
interesting.
And it really helped, because I didn't get as many followers that day, but during the course of the next week, I got a lot. And I'm sure a lot of them came
really interesting.
What you're doing.
What's really interesting is that it used to be that your posts used to have about a 2-hour lifespan, but with the new curation that Instagram has put in, that started about a year and a half ago, a year ago, whatever it was. The curate or the lifespan of a post now is up to 2 days, which is much better. Like Pinterest is up to, yeah, and Pinterest is up to 6 months. I mean, a Pinterest lifespan of a post is up to 6 months.
It's crazy.
Okay,
I could
next
tell
week
I was
is
getting
supposed
more hits from what you're having coincided what I was doing with what you were doing. I could tell made a huge difference, and so I really appreciated it.
Nice. Okay. Well, I mean, I know this is that all the comments that you guys make and the action that's on there, it definitely, I think it makes a difference. From my analytics that I see, it makes a difference. And I'm not pushing other people's stuff the same way as I am yours. So it should be driving more people to your followership. And hopefully, again, you guys have got a funnel in place, which I think maybe at some point we should talk about funnels. But hopefully you have a funnel in place to help to turn those new followers into customers. So, or at least into your the long game onto your email list. Okay, so next week go ahead, Valerie.
I was going to say, this is the first time you posted that you actually gave me customers, and I had 4 of those mixing bowls that you posted, which I've never really gotten a lot of hits on before. But I sold all 4 of them. I was getting ready to pack them up for this upcoming show, and I sold them all instead. And I was like, "Yay!"
Those mixing bowls are really cool. I like those with the birds telling how big the thing is.
They're great sellers. So, but usually the cherry ones when they're online don't do that well. But I was really delighted to have that many sales from that. So thank you.
When you have a chance, can you address what you were talking about, the funnel? I don't know about that.
Who is that?
Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah, you said you should have a funnel?
I did say that, Jackie. I said a funnel.
Yes. Well, funnel your feed or whatever. Can you talk about that?
Do you want me to talk about that? You want me to talk about that right now before we get into our terrific time management tips?
It's all right. At some point, can you address it with me?
Okay. Let me first off tell you who's next week. And all 3 of these people aren't here tonight. Troy Bungart, Chiro on his way. He's driving home from a kiln opening. So Chiro, and then Kathleen Bloom, who is home, chose not to be here because she's feeling flu-ish. And she was being gracious and not exposing us to her flu. So those are the 3 that are on there right now. But one person, we have a new member that hasn't given me their information to be able to add us to this group yet. So so she or he, I can't remember, is going to be added to the group. So they'll be at the front of the line soon. And Bill has not allowed us yet to start putting him in the mix. He said, hold off until he's ready to really start. That's Blue Chicken, at Blue Chicken on Instagram. So that's who's going to be on next week. So none of y'all. And then 2 weeks out, it'll be Jeannie, Jackie, and Rachel. Because y'all were added the latest to the list. So there you go. Jeannie, Jackie, and Rachel, you'll be 2 weeks out. Okay. Okay, real quickly, Jackie, to answer your question, and I don't want to go into that long because I want to get to our topic for tonight, because that's what's going to be on our in the replay, so people will be able to get to the terrific time management tips. Yes, Jackie, there should be a funnel. The goal of all social media should be seen as like the old wagon wheel spokes. You got the hub in the middle, which should be your home base, your website. All the other spokes that go out to social media, Pinterest, Instagram, Buffer, everything else that's on there, Twitter, Facebook, all of them should be leading people off of the social network and into your website, where you literally own that piece of property. Everything else is rented property. The center of it, the home base, your website, that's your property. You own that. you can't break the rules there.
Okay.
Because you set the rules up for yourself. You want to talk about politics and say rude things, you could do it on your website. You do it out on social media, they may shut down your account unless you're the president. You can be an idiot as the president and it'll never shut down your account. But if you're a regular Joe like us, they'll shut down your account for that. And I'm sorry, I just made a political comment. I try to be completely. I mean, I could go in for a few minutes here. Yeah, it's really hard. And I'm sorry that I said anything political there because some of you might be Trump supporters and that's okay. I love you to pieces. And it doesn't, so I'm just going to move on from there. Just say it that I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. My point is there's rules out here. On yours, there are no rules.
Okay. So
their goal is to keep everybody on their on their site, their platform. Your goal is for their platform and onto your platform.
So let me see if I get this straight. So when you do the reposts, then we're hoping that people in the world see those reposts and then go to our spot, go to our Instagram feed, which then they would see the link that says go to my website or whatever that, however you call it that way. Right?
Yes.
And then my website then has somewhere on it to have subscribers subscribe. Therefore, yeah. Am I right?
Okay. Yes. In fact, Jackie, what you just said gave me a brilliant idea. If I can call my ideas brilliant, do you guys give me that permission? Because I don't care if you do or don't. I think my ideas are brilliant. Let me just say this. It just gave me a brilliant idea that it would be really smart of you. Now that you know what the schedule is, it'd be really smart of you to create something very specific for that day that if they click through to your website, you would have a post that perhaps is made through Canva or something like that, that would be an advertisement to get people off of your social media and onto your website. Like a special giveaway, like what I think Valerie talked about that a moment ago, about having a giveaway specifically on that day. So to grab their attention, keep them off of my feed and on your feed and get them to get from your feed to your website. So yes, okay. I just understood why it would be really important for us to have advance notice of why it could be so powerful for you. Is that if you had the latest post that day as a post that is something that gets interaction and community built there.
Bingo.
Great question, Jackie. Great question. Great question from all of you about that. So I really appreciate that. That gives us a stronger reason to be able to do what we're doing with that. Okay. So Jackie, my point is that the funnel is going like this. Our goal is to get people off of here to here. And then when you get them onto your website, you've got to give them a reason to give them your email address. Mm-hmm. So that it's not a come and go, but it's a come and capture. You want to put them in your net and they are stuck in your net. And the only way they can get free is by hitting an unsubscribe button. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what we want. We want them to be on. So that's the basics. Okay. I don't want to stay there all night. And so maybe at some other time, I'll do a whole conversation with y'all about building a funnel and what a funnel should look like. But tonight, I want to talk about terrific time management tips, okay? And the reason I want to talk about this is because of the problem of time management for entrepreneurs, or as you guys may want to call yourself, artrepreneurs or claypreneurs. There's so many different preneurs out there. You know, it's so funny to be in the business world of preneurs and to hear how people do things with their preneurs, like the way they make solopreneurs and so on and so forth. And I've often thought that, guy, if I was a farmer, I'd become a manurepreneur. It'd be just
had to go there.
But here's the problem that I find with my life. And y'all probably know what it's like, that I am exceptionally busy. And that is not a crown that I would dad jokes. No, Carly, no. Okay. here's the problem that I find with my life. And again, it's not because I feel proud with this. I do tend to feel a little bit, I hope you see the air quotes, important, because I'm so busy. I am running 3 businesses, legitimate businesses. All 3 of them are making money, and they're legitimate. They're legitimate businesses. But it's not something that I'm necessarily proud of is being this busy, because here's what happens with me, and this is probably true with you also, is that when you've got a ton of stuff going on, then the days they start to feel like they're out of control. And you feel like you're getting lots of work done. And especially if you're involved in other things other than your own business, you start to feel like you're getting other people's stuff done. And you feel like you're busy without any real progress on the bigger dreams that you have for yourself. And so instead of feeling like instead of the busyness being adrenaline boost for you, instead it becomes, as I feel, I start having feelings of defeat, being defeated, which is not a great feeling. It's not a great feeling. In fact, this last weekend, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, but this last weekend, specifically on Saturday morning, I just fell into a very deep depression. Emotionally, it just felt horrible about things, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But just so you know, it was not a good place. It was a defeat. It was a moment of defeat, and I didn't like the way that things were going. So, so you start feeling defeated about life, and I'm sure all of us those feelings. These are not unique to Paul Blaze. These are unique to humanity, right? Especially if you are a busy person and you're trying to build your own business, build something significant. So that's the problem. If we don't have good time management tricks up our sleeves, is that you end up feeling like your days are out of control. You start feeling like there's lots of work on other people's stuff. You start feeling busy with no progress. You start to feel defeated instead of triumphant, and those are very negative type feelings. Now, that is probably not a definitive list, but let me just say that I recognize the list could be a lot longer. And I'm not going to take the time to ask y'all other things that you would face with that, just because we spent so much time talking about Kill in the Kitchen and talking about funnels and talking about the Instagram strategy. So
just because we've got time management problems, in other words?
Yes.
Sorry.
I feel like those were, no, that was good. So here, I'm going to tell you here's, if you want to have terrific time management tips, I'm going to give you 5 of them that are really important. Okay. These are not definitive. This is overview. So just understand that as we go into this. I'm giving this a really good overview, but I've tried to grab the 5 really significant. And if there were no other lists that were out there, like other things you could add to it, this would really give you a great place to find success in getting on top of your time management. Because as an entrepreneur, as an artist, as a clay maker, as a business owner, these are the things that will set you apart and be able to grow it, especially if your business right now is a side hustle as opposed to a main hustle. I know that right now that one of the things that we have going on with Rachel's at a point where she wants to get out of the dealing cards, being do you call it dealing? What do you call yourself, Rachel?
A croupier.
A croupier. Oh, nice.
No, we don't call it that. I'm a dealer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, a dealer. So, well, dealer has different connotations also.
Yeah.
Both of them suck the money out of us.
Exactly.
But as being a croupier, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, with a little bit more emphasis on the croupier. It's a side hustle. You know, her business is a bit of a side hustle, and so kind of figuring out how to get from the side hustle to the main hustle, to where you're just doing the hustle. You know, these are the things that will help us to be able to get out of those feelings of the problems that I described. And so the number one terrific time management tip, number one, is you've got to know your destination or where you are going. Remember the 70s. But there was that song, you know, do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? Anyhow, there you go, that song. That song has stuck with me for all those years because, one, it was just great lyrics, but also every once in a while I'll start humming that when I feel lost, you know, because I wonder, where am I going right now, you know? But having a defined definition or a defined destination makes all the difference in the world of knowing. What I'm talking about is not a dream, but a destination. There's difference there. A dream is very vague and it's unspecific. A destination is a planned place you want to end up, okay? So first off, knowing where you want to land is a great place to start, or is actually probably the first place to start. And let me say that it's okay if that changes. We call that pivoting in the entrepreneurial world or the business world. We call that pivoting. It's okay if you want to pivot, but the first place you got to be is at least have a target that you're aiming for. And if on the way you figure out, oh, that's not a good target, it's okay to change because you're already on the move. You just change directions. So you can, it's okay to pivot, but it's important to have a target, a defined destination. So once you know your defined destination, then you can go to step 2. Okay. So step 1 is know where you're going, define your destination. Okay. I want to pause here for just a moment. I'm kind of moving. I'm going to move fast through these points, but let me just give you permission at any point to jump in and make a joke like Valerie did, or to ask a question, or to make a comment. Anything you want to. Just unmute yourself and jump in, and I will immediately stop. Unless I think that I'm being exceptionally brilliant at that moment, then I'll just keep on talking right over you. But I want to give you permission. It's more important that we talk with each other than it is for me to talk at you. So hopefully you get that sense it's okay to talk with me than to be talked at. But I do see this as a lesson. So a bit of this is definitely give you something that I hope is valuable for you. So, but at any time you want to interrupt, we're good with that. Okay. So point 1 of the 6 points I'm going to give you is to know your destination, know where you're going. Defined destination. I have talked about that a number of times in the last few weeks with us because it is very important. Okay. The second thing that you want to have is once you know your destination, then it's super important to prioritize the destination. Prioritize the destination. Here's one of the things that Stephen Covey said that was so brilliant. I love super smart people because they bring it, they will say something that just makes you go, that's what I need for my life. And they summarize so many things. And here's what Stephen Covey said that was so brilliant and boiled it down to the absolute essence of what I'm talking about. He said, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. I said that slowly because I wanted you to capture the nuance of that. It's not that you sit down and you start prioritizing, because when you start looking at time management, there are great things out there that will talk about how you prioritize, put it in, 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C. That's great. But it's more significant to think, instead of prioritizing your schedule, it's better to schedule your priorities. Let me put it in this way. There's another company out there, and for the life of me right now, it's gone blank from my head, his name. It's a company called the Franklin Planner.
Covey.
That was it. No, it's not. It's not Covey, is it?
Franklin Covey.
No, Steve. No,
Stephen Covey.
No, Franklin. No, Franklin Covey and Franklin Covey and this guy hooked up together because the Franklin Planner became a really powerful process, which I was trained in. I went to training school for it. And then Stephen Covey wrote the seven habits of highly effective people. And so those two hooked up, and I can't remember the guy. He wrote a book called the 10. It doesn't matter. Franklin was the system. But he told a story, and I can't remember the dude's name, so I apologize for that. I had it a few minutes ago before we started, and for whatever reason, it's completely left my brain. So, but he tells a story about the idea of standing in front of a class. He was telling his story about how he would stand in front of a class, and he would say, "Okay, I've got this big vessel, a big vase, and it's a big glass vase, and I want you to tell me when this thing is full." And he put a bunch of big rocks in there. And he said, "Okay, tell me, is this full?" And everybody looked at it, and it was filled to the top with rocks. And they said, "Yes, it's full." He said, "Okay, great. Well, let's see if we can fit more in there." And then he poured gravel into it, which is a bunch of little pebbles. And they went in there. He shook the bottle, and he shook it, and he shook it, and he got all this little gravel to fit in there. And he goes, "Is it full now?" And everybody said, "Yes, it's full now." And so he said, "Great, great." Then he grabbed another vessel that had sand, and he started pouring sand into it. And then he would shake the vase, he would shake it, and the sand would filter down and get into all the places. And then he would say, "Is it full now?" And then he said, the audience's reaction was a little bit different. He said, "We want to say yes, but we think you've got a trick up your sleeve." So he said, "You're right, I do." Because then he grabbed a pitcher of water, and he started pouring water into it. And then he would say, "What's the lesson here?" And he always said, and he said this joke. I've heard him say this joke a couple of times. He said this joke is that somebody in the audience piped up and said that no matter how full your schedule is, you can always fit more in. And he said, "That's not the lesson I'm trying to teach." He said, if you were to start with the water first, then go to the sand, then go to the gravel, you would never get the big rocks in first. And if you want to be successful, you've got to put the big rocks first and then fit everything else in around it. That was the lesson. That's what Stephen Covey means when he says, schedule the priorities, don't prioritize the schedule. If you have a defined definition, it is way more powerful to reach your goals, to reach that destination, if you put the biggest things, your dreams, not the dreams of other people, your dreams in there first, and then fit the other stuff around it. Especially if your business is the side hustle, make sure we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the power of non-negotiables. We talked about that. I'm going to talk about it for just a moment, again. That's what the non-negotiables are in this point, is where you're saying, no matter what, my dream is going to happen. My dream is going to get done. And this part of my dream, to be able to get there, this part of that journey has to be taken. I'll still fit these other things in, but this is more important than what my boss wants or what my other things going on. This thing's going to happen. I'll still do those other things, but it's going to take second seat. They're going to play second fiddle instead of first fiddle. Because here's what happens. It's from personal experience. Here's what happens. If my dreams aren't in the mix, someone else will do it. I have said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it one more time. You can live a life of design or you can live a life of default. It's your choice. I want to live a life of design. Okay. So prioritize the destination. That's step 2. Number 1 is you got to know where you're going. And step 2 is you've got to make those your priorities. Now, how intensely you make that priority, I get it. You still have to feed the kids. You still have to feed the rent, or the landlord, or the mortgage. But you have to put in your big rocks too. I'm not saying ignore those things, but you got to get those into the mix. So you got to get those in there. So point 1, know your destination, and number 2, prioritize your destination. Number 3, always have a plan. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the idea of non-negotiables. And I said to y'all, I said that I have a new priority in my life, or a new mantra, which was respond promptly. And I told you about my inbox in my email. I got to tell you, I can get up to 200 emails a day. And it drives me crazy. The vast majority of it will be spam. So I am starting with, I've started a process where I click and delete, click and delete, click and delete. But I will also use my email box as a to-do list. And so when I come across something that is important, I won't click on it. I will save it for later. Carly immediately wrote me, like literally during our hangout, she wrote me something like, have you emptied your email box, or something like that. I don't remember what you wrote, Carly, but it was hilarious because it was during our meeting that happened. And I got to tell you, I did that with my email box. My email box is now at 0. It's still at 0. I told you that last week. Well, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. It's up to 6 again. But that's because before we met, I definitely went through and emptied them all. So, yeah. So, anyhow, I've got to go through and I'll clear these out after we're done talking. I just cleared away 2 of them because they're spam. There we go. So, but the point is, I did that. Here's the other thing that I decided to do. It's not just my email. It was also my text messages. Here's where I said that I got really depressed on Saturday. Was because of this. A friend of mine, Tim, when I say friend, he's a guy that's been on the podcast. I've went and met with him and had some hangout time with him. He makes cardboard mugs. They're actually ceramic, but they look like cardboard mugs. Tim Kowalczyk, I think is how we say his name. Kowalski. No, it's not Kowalski. It's good. I can never say his last name correctly. Anyhow, Tim is in town, and we've been planning for about a month to have this get together that I thought was on the 20th, and I didn't write it down, and so it turns out it was on the 12th, not the 20th. So I completely didn't show up, and I'd been writing saying I'm going to be there, and so I'm sure other people were like seeing that and saying, "Oh, well, that'd be nice to be able to hang out with Paul Blaze." Not that that's that big of a deal, as you guys know, but some people might think it is. I get that. So then I didn't even show up. And he even texted me that day. He said, "Hey, are you coming to the get together together?" And I said, "Yes, it's happening next weekend." That's what I said. And he wrote back, and I didn't respond to it. He wrote back, "That would be great, but we're all meeting tonight." That's what he wrote me. But I'll tell you what, the reason why I didn't see it was because my messages, there was 80 other messages on my message board, or in my message feed. So I didn't even respond, I didn't even register my brain that there was something new. So I was so depressed because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, which is respond promptly. So I did what some of you may have to do. I filed bankruptcy with my messages and my phone messages, and I deleted everything that was older than 2 weeks, and then I went through and I responded to everybody that was within the 2 week period. So now all of them are at 0, unless it's happened in the last hour since we've been talking. And it's gonna, I'm telling you, that respond promptly is gonna make a new life for me. But there's a new one that I've been working on, sociable I want for my life. And it is planet. Not planet like Earth, Mars. More like it, IT. So plan it. Getting it onto a schedule. Because I didn't have that on, I didn't put that message that they'd sent to me email about the 12th, because I didn't put it on my calendar. There was no way to know that it was just being held in my little brain. Worst place to hold information is your brain. That is the worst place in the world to hold any information. It's not that, it's that it's more like a sponge than it is a basket, because a sponge, water goes into it and it just drains through. If a little bit goes in there, no big deal. It'll soak it up. But as soon as you get too much water in there, it starts draining through as if there was no sponge there. All the sponge does is slow it down. And I got to tell you, I slow down a lot of information, but I don't keep a lot of information. That's why planning it becomes so critical. Abraham Lincoln said this, and I think I've quoted this before to y'all. He said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I absolutely love that. Valerie is texting me, so I'll check with that in a minute here, Valerie.
Later, after.
But the best, yeah, that's fine. The best way to predict, to create the future or the best way to predict the future is to create yourself. And the way you create it is to plan it. Look at, if you've got another hustle that's going on, you've got a main business, I get it, or you've got other people in your life that are putting demands in your life. It doesn't have to be a boss. It can be a spouse. It could be a child. It could be a grandchild. It could be a friend, a neighbor. It doesn't matter. Plan your future for you. They can totally plan your future for you, or you can. That's why planning it becomes really important. One of the best things you can do is to have a calendar, and the calendar becomes one of the things that we, at least, let me just say this. I mock fortune tellers. I just think it's a big crock. I don't believe any of them. I don't believe in a horoscope. I don't believe in a crystal ball. But I believe in my own crystal ball. And my own crystal ball has to be my calendar, because that will tell me what the future is. It's going to tell me, oh, you're going to be meeting someone beautiful in the next 5 days. Yes, because I've planned it. Who's going to pay me to do a specific job? That's a beautiful person to me. Someone who's going to pay me to do a specific job. You can plan it that way also. Become your own crystal ball. You can tell the future by your own crystal ball, which is called a calendar. Planet is a very beautiful thing. So number 3, always have a plan. So number 1, know your destination. Define the destination. Number 2, prioritize your destination. Get it on the calendar. I'm not saying ignore everything else, but get yours on there first. and then fit everything else in. Number 3, always have a plan. Plan what you want to do for the future. And number 4, this is the other non-negotiable that I'm working on, is live it, or live off the schedule. It's one thing to write the plan. It's another thing to live the plan. Here's how you do that. So when I say, I'm going to back up to point 3 again real quickly for just a moment, is that always have a plan. I'm going to tell you when that plan is supposed to be implemented. It can be implemented on a Friday afternoon when your week is done and you're looking towards the next week. It can be done on a Sunday evening, or it could be done on a Monday morning before your week is started. So I'm talking about like 5, 4, 3, 2 in the morning. Those are the times to do that, where it's before anything else happens. You look at your schedule, you put the big things in there, and then that's the schedule to live off of. That brings us to number 4 then, is that you want to live off the schedule. Here's how you live off of a schedule, okay? I'm going to tell you 3 things that you do to be able to live off the schedule that you have previously planned, either on Friday afternoon, Sunday evening, or Monday morning. This is how you live off a schedule. In the morning, every day, for 3 minutes, you look at your schedule for that day. Just that day. And when I say you look at the schedule, that means that you've got scheduled from 8 to noon marketing. Or from 8 to noon, you're going to do making. But the point is, you've got something very specific that's going to be on there. So you look at the schedule and you see what it's going to be. Secondly, you then do the schedule. You've looked at the schedule, then you do the schedule. In other words, at 8 o'clock, your plan has already told you, not your friend, not your boss, nobody else, your plan has already told you what you're going to do at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be that you're going to be marketing specifically. Maybe it's for a half hour. Maybe it's for 4 hours. It doesn't matter. You have a specific set of time that's set aside for marketing only and nothing else. And so then you do it at 8 in the morning, from 8 to 8:30. That's what you do. Here's what you do. So number 1, you look at it. Number 2, you do it. And here's the secret of the whole process is number 3, you do the next thing. It's so simple. This is not rocket science. If it was rocket science, I would not be telling you. A rocket scientist would be telling you, not me. This is simple stuff. If the non-brainiac Paul Blaze can, then you can know that you can do it. It's a 3-step process. It's so simple. You look at it, you do it, and then you do the next thing. And only on the schedule that you have set. If you run out of time on one of them, that's okay. Then pause it. And then you put it on the schedule for the next day or for whenever else you're going to do it. But then you do the next thing on the schedule. And that's okay. The point is that it's been scheduled. If it's not on the schedule, it won't happen. So you live it. Number 1, know where you're going. That's define the destination. Number 2, prioritize the destination. Discipline. Oh yeah, Elizabeth is writing if she's watching right now. So hello to everybody. Say hello to Elizabeth because she's watching it. She's busy doing other things. So she's saying discipline. So everybody say hi. Everybody wave. Everybody just take a moment to wave it to Elizabeth. There you go. So yes, discipline. Very good point, Elizabeth. Thank you. So live off the schedule, and it's a 3-point process. Look at it, do it, do the next thing. Okay. Here is point number 5 that I want to share with you. And I've alluded to it, but I want to make it a very specific standalone point, okay? Put your life on autopilot. What I mean by autopilot is that if you have a schedule in front of you, if you planned it, and you start to live off of it, then you start to become an autopilot. You don't have to worry about what's coming up. Some of the things you want to get rid of in your life is get rid of as many decision-making steps as possible. There's a real thing called decision fatigue. The longer you go into the day having to make decisions, the more stressful it becomes. So if you can have it on autopilot, of where you're not having to worry about it, you just look at your schedule and you deal with it, what's on the schedule, that's living off of the schedule. The more you can do that and you're on autopilot, the way less stressed you're going to be at the end of the day, because you've not had to make decisions. The decision was made on Friday afternoon or Sunday evening or Monday morning before anything else has started. Made. So you don't have to have the decision fatigue that's going on. You're on autopilot. You're just doing the next thing. And that takes away the fatigue of life, the fatigue of the process, because it's just doing the next thing. Now, there's more to the autopilot I could go into, such as like automating your banking, automating well, I'm just saying your banking. I'm not going to go on because I was going to throw something from the hip that's not in my notes, and I'm not very good at that, so I'll stick to my notes. So there's more we could talk about autopilot, and if you want some really good resource on that, then probably the most classic resource for autopilot living is the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. If you want to read that book, it's a great resource. And that puts your whole life on autopilot. But I'm more talking about the idea about terrific time management tips. And so the terrific time management tips is by live off the schedule, which means you're on autopilot. And autopilot helps to take the fatigue out of the process, because you just when the time is up, then you just go on to the next thing. There's a resource that I want to mention as we are here before I cruise on. Is look this up and Google this. One Thing, and there's something about the one thing blocking, blocking, you could look up. One Thing is a great way to kind of think about in a broader sense than I've talked about blocking, which is scheduling. And having what's called the good night. What's that called? The search the P. I can't remember off the top of my head, so we'll just move on. But there's ways of doing that to where you can set a timer and say, from this time to this time, I'm going to do this and this only. Now, it's okay to do other things like what Valerie's doing right now, what Becca is doing right now, what Carly is doing right now. I don't know if anyone else is doing any other things, but like those three, you're double dipping. You're working on something else, but you're also paying attention to our group conversation. But you're also painting and moving it. That stuff is good. That's okay to double dip. I don't have a problem with that. But having the autopilot helps to take the pressure off what to do next. So I have 5 points I wanted to talk about for terrific time management tips. Is one, again, define the destination, prioritize the destination, plan the destination, which is always have a plan, and then live off of the schedule, live off the plan, and then autopilot your life. So those are the 5 things I wanted to talk about, because those are great. If you did nothing else with time management, if you did absolutely nothing else, these 5 tips would change your life. They would change your life. Now that's now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would add one thing to it, is spend a few minutes at the beginning of planning each week to review what worked and what didn't the week before, so you don't perpetuate the same time jams that you've had. Because sometimes you find that you didn't allow enough time for certain things, or over-planned your life and didn't allow for the fact that you have children, or, you know, I mean, it helps just to take just a couple of minutes of review to adjust and learn as you go on. Then your plan becomes better and better each week.
Really well said. That's great advice, Valerie. Yeah, that's great advice. Thoughts before we close out for the evening for about this topic that would be important. Becca, do you have any thoughts or critiques, comments?
Sure. I would say that one thing I'm trying to do, I've been really bad, or I have a habit of making like 1 million to-do lists. I have like so many notebooks that I carry around with myself. And so this year I'm trying to kind of rein that in. So I have my Moleskine planner, and it's really nice because it has like the days on one side and then like a note sheet just of blank lines. And so each week I'm making my list there, and then I can go, and if I don't finish something from that week, I'm moving it to the following. So it's been nice for me personally, because it's been, I do too many lists, and then I'll mark 2 things off, and then I'll rewrite the list or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But also, I actually just got a part-time floral job, and so my time is going to be more limited in the next few months here. So I'm definitely going to have to be a little more time management oriented, which, yeah, this talk came at a really convenient time.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. And especially when you've got, like, Becca, you and I are like, it sounds like you and I might be in similar boats where we're trying to do multiple businesses, whether one of them's yours and one of them's not. It doesn't matter. You know, mine just happen to be all mine, but that's irrelevant. It becomes even more critical to be really laser focused in doing that. So that's really good. I didn't talk about tools that much. Can I tell you, because I think that tools are very personalized. And if I were to go through and tell you about all of my tools, that might be a useful conversation at some point. But I feel like at this point that my tool, which I do everything off of my phone, may not be as useful for you, because like what you said specifically, Becca mentioned her Moleskine. I know some people are very, very much that tactile paper type of a person. My brother-in-law, Doug Rovianic, who's also one of my business partners. Doug is the same way. He's a very tactile guy. Elizabeth said on our Facebook page, she said, I definitely produce more products in my studio time when I have pre-planned what I'm going to make that day. And then she says way more. So yeah, really good point, Elizabeth. Really good point. We do become more productive. The point is that I think what I wanted to say about what Elizabeth is highlighting is the prioritizing the destinations. You know, like when you pre-plan that, it's because you're putting your priorities in there, and then you become more productive there. Always have a plan, and that's because you're prioritizing your plan. So that's really powerful. Carly, do you have any thoughts, or have I teased you too much tonight? Have I insulted you enough at all?
It's never enough. No, you can always tease me. I'm still stuck on number 1. I don't know where I'm going. So.
Yeah. That's okay. I get that. Okay. One of the things to do is probably to spend some time, and that's probably would be important to do with your spouse, your partner, whoever that significant other person might be. I'm
teasing. He's great.
I think that, yes. But one of those things might be for that person to interview you about your dreams, because conversations create clarity. Okay? Conversations create clarity. If you can have a talk, specifically say, hey, can we have a conversation about me for a few minutes? That's an okay thing to do. And just say, for the next half hour, can we do nothing but talk about me? Because it's not arrogance. It's more like you're saying, I need clarity in my life. And let that person dig through your dreams, dig through your heart to be able to pull those things out so that you can find clarity on what you think a future ought to look like. My wife and I just last night listened to a podcast with Michael Hyatt about how to plan and set goals with your spouse. So we listened to that. It was really good. That might be something that y'all may want to listen to. Maybe I should post that in our Facebook group. If you guys want that, I can find the podcast and post it in there. But that might be really a great thing. Again, I'm trying to alliterate it for you so that it will stick in your brain. Conversations create clarity. That's good. One person put it this way: I don't know what I think until I've said it. And that there's humor in that. But oh my gosh, there's also reality in that. That talking about it brings a lot to the table. Okay, so that's so I want you to. That might be the thing to do for you, Carly, is to spend some time talking. And that might be one of the things that would be really good for us as a mastermind group when we get together at NCECA, to spend some time talking about our specific individual dreams. Maybe do that some morning session or something before the whole day's events start, if you guys are awake enough or something. I don't know, but that might be really powerful to do as a as masterminders. So to Pete Holmes's podcast. Who's Pete Holmes? Pete Holmes. Okay, you were listening to that, yeah? It's You Made It Weird. He says that trying to figure out what he wants is like building sandcastles underwater, and that's pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, I don't know. SpongeBob SquarePants has no problems with water castles underwater. No problems. That's true. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, Jeannie, do you have any thoughts you want to share? Or, by the way, I like your studio. Look at that studio behind you. Very nice.
We're talking about time management when we're all involved in something that there's a thing called clay time, and clay dictates, when it's time to trim those pots, you got to trim those pots. The dryness of the clay, sometimes you block out, 3 or 4 hours to work in your studio, but you really needed 8 because you got something started that isn't, just going to take way longer than you anticipated. Yeah. So it's a little bit harder to schedule those blocks of time when you're working with a material that dictates.
Jeannie, can I just say that I disagree with you wholeheartedly?
Sure.
I disagree with you because
tell me how to manage it.
I'm in charge of my time. So I've created magic boxes that allow me to tell the clay what it's supposed to do and not the clay to tell me what I'm supposed to do. So I no longer am under the pressure of time with my clay. I throw my pieces, I put them in my magic boxes. The only time there's like a couple things that I have to do. I have to let them dry enough to where they're not wet, to where they're at least like before leather hard, and then I put them in magic boxes and it freezes them in time. So I'm no longer at the mercy of my clay. My clay is at the mercy of me. So I literally have pieces in my box that I may have thrown 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I become in charge of it. But you and I are in different places, Jeannie. I've got 3 businesses that I'm running, and that I used to have like, I would go from, and I've talked about this before, where I start out, I'm making mugs, and because of what you talked about, they have to be trimmed when they have to be trimmed. You have to add handles when they have to be handled. I used to start out with mugs, and then I would end up with tumblers because I didn't have the time to put the handles on. That no longer is the case. I now put them in my magic boxes, and I'm in charge of it. So I mean, I agree with you. There's a process. You're talking about workload, and that's a different conversation. Is about talking about your priorities. Your priorities and your workload has to be part of your priorities, but your workload is different than what this is. There's two aspects of what we're dealing with here. You're saying in order to have stuff to sell and stuff to you have to go through the process of making. That's the maker in us. We're all doing making. But there's other things that are really important, like not only making, but marketing. Not only marketing, but mobilizing, and also creating community and followers, and all sorts of these other things that are important. Like if you were to divide up, if you were to take the time and say, what should a business put their, take all of their finances, how should a person divide their income? Some of it's going to go to profit and overhead. It's going to go to me personally as a paycheck. And that's where we usually stop. But if you look at successful businesses, they also have research and development. They also have marketing. And then they say, this is going to be 10% of our budget, 15% of our budget. And if you look at it like that, you say, if I want to be like Coca-Cola, not necessarily you want to be that big, but you can look at their budget and say, okay, I'm going to spend this much on marketing, this much of my stuff on research and development with your time. That's where we're talking about prioritizing your destination. So knowing where you want to go, and then figuring out a way to make all of these things work together.
Well, I think that's
also. Does that make
where
sense? So I'm not. Oh, go ahead, Valerie, please.
I was going to say, I think that's also where reviewing your week comes into play, because it is a reality. If you don't have wet boxes, maybe you need to say, man, this is something that's hinging me. I couldn't do what I needed to do because I don't have a damp box. Or I can't put 100 mugs in a damp box. What can I do to, and you identify what isn't working, and maybe that's where you come back to this group or other places and go, I can't accomplish the goal I need to accomplish. What solutions do I have to be able to make this into a realistic goal, or is it an impossible goal? You know, my time is being eaten up because I lost all my mugs because I had to take my kids to the doctor when I needed to trim mugs, and obviously that's a higher priority, even though it was an emergency.
Yes.
But those things are realities, and if I don't have a system in place to be able to handle that, other than just wrapping it in plastic, maybe that works in the short run, but it doesn't work in the longer run. But I think those are realities. I mean, your reality is that's the reality that you're facing right now, is that trimming times is controlling you. The question you can ask when you review your thing is, how can I take control of trimming time? What can I do to put that under my control rather than having it control me? And there's a lot of different solutions for it. You know, maybe everything else is being balanced, but that's the thing that's throwing everything out of whack. And so you aren't able to produce as much as you need to, and it's affecting your family life and everything else.
Yes. By the way, I do want to throw this in here. Elizabeth wrote, keep teasing Carly.
Sorry, Carly, you're a target.
Valerie, I would say this. We would call that sage advice, what you just gave, really sage advice. And if you don't mind, I'd like to add to it this idea. Not that I'm necessarily giving sage advice, but let me just say I've got a little bit of advice to add on to there. There's another aspect that we're talking about there that maybe that I haven't even touched on. Important, and the further you get down the road, that there might be this other one that would be really important to consider, and that's the big D word. I had this great conversation with an entrepreneur from London probably about 3 years ago. And he said one of the best lines I've ever heard. And I may have told you guys this. And if I haven't, I apologize, because I feel like it's something that's really valuable that you all should know about. The fish may not be able to buy love, but they can buy time. That comment. That's the part of delegation becomes. When I, as a business owner, start hiring people, what I'm really doing is I'm buying more time for myself. I can't go out and do this, A, B, and C. Instead, what I'm doing is I am buying their time to do my. I could care less about. I mean, I'm saying this harshly right now, but I want you to understand this is an extreme way of saying I could care less about their priorities. I care about my priorities when I'm paying them my money. So, at some point, if I were to add to what Valerie is saying, is that, and to also piggyback, Jeannie, onto what you're saying, is there might come a point of where you say, I need to buy time for myself, and when I buy time, is that I'm going to pay someone else to be able to create more time for myself. That's why was that East Fork Pottery does, or that's what Justin Rosshank does. That's what people who are getting a lot of work done and selling a lot of work and creating a bigger business are doing. It's not because they're amazing. The bigger vision that they're willing to pay someone else to do part of it for, and to be able to pay them less than what they're going to reap from that person. For that, and that's another conversation. I didn't put that into tonight's talk about the big D word, delegation, getting someone else to do the things that you need to have in your life done in your life, and that becomes more of a where you become a designer and a director. Important, but that's not what we're talking. That's not entirely what we're talking about. But that is something else to think about. Mix for yourselves for later. Does that make sense, Jeannie?
Yeah.
But some of those delegations could be the things that I talked about, like magic boxes. Valerie's right. If you're making 100 mugs, magic boxes. You're right.
But magic boxes wouldn't work for me anymore. But I'm a baker's rack with a plastic zip cover that has a zip door keeps my stuff for 4 days if I need to.
Yes.
So
in Florida, you're right. It would keep you for 4 days. Time
by buying a baker's rack with a covered sides. Yeah. So that's buying time too. It may be, my mantra has always been, if it's worth doing, it's worth delegating. But some things aren't worth delegating yet. It may not be. It may not have the people to do that, but I can buy time in a different way because that really is valid, and that's what we all need to be able to manage life instead of having it manage us. Is control time rather than. And anytime I'm reviewing my week and finding out where did time control me versus vice, the other way around. Right. That's where I have to ask the question.
Yeah. Rachel's saying good night. Her computer's dying. So good night, Rachel. We'll be finishing up here in just a moment anyhow. So any other thoughts that we need to, Leanna, are we missing anything? You're still in your blue person right now. Do you have any thoughts before we bail?
I don't know how to get the camera to work.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, this is, I like a lot of time management kind of stuff. So it's been nice listening to other people's suggestions and tips. I tend to just not schedule things that I can't accomplish, and that helps me a lot. I used to be a type of person that liked to just write stuff on a list because I like to cross things off, and then I realized it was just making things more stressful because it was like making more work for myself just because I wanted stuff to like cross off. And I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and somebody mentioned like don't assign yourself stuff that I can't physically do in a day. And so now I don't. And if I think that it's something that needs worthy of getting done, but it just isn't going to happen today, I write it like on a calendar, and it's like I have two calendars. One that's like big things, and the other thing is like just ideas and stuff I want to get done in the future, but it can't happen today, and I don't want to forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
So that helps.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. The list thing is really important. You know, there were studies that were done about lists that when you check off a list, when you check something off the list, you get an adrenaline rush in your brain that's very similar to heroin or LSD, and, as far as the joy that someone gets out of it. And so if you can check something off, man, you freak your brain out. It's a good thing for your soul. So,
it is,
but you're right.
It runs into like a tricky situation when you start like writing things down that you already did just because you want to check them off the list.
Yes, put them on the list just to check them off.
I'm like, I can't be the only one that was doing that, so I have stopped doing that.
Oh, I've done that. I've totally done that, Leanne. That's awesome. Yes. Yes. Let's see. I haven't asked Jackie to pipe in. Jackie, do you have any thoughts?
We're good. We're good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, then let's wrap it up. Before we leave, Valerie, you stick around, but everybody else, how about we say goodnight? I'm gonna stop the broadcast, but it was great spending time with you. And so there you go. There you go. Stopping the broadcast. Here we go. Good night, y'all.
Good night.